помню чудное мгновенье, передо мной явилась ты, как мимолетное виденье, как гений чистой красоты, как гений чистой красоты. В томлениях грусти бездни отечной, в тревогах шумной суеты, звучал мне только голос нежный, и снились милые черты, и снились милые черты. Шли годы, порыв метечный, Россия пречные мечты, и я забыл твой голос нежный, твои небесные черты, твои небесные черты. В глуши во мраке затечение тянулись тихо дни мои, без божества, без вдохновения, без слез, без жизни, без любви, без слез, без жизни, без любви. В душе настало пробуждение, и в отпятие явилась ты, как мимолетное виденье, как гений чистой красоты, как гений чистой красоты. И сердце бьется в упоенье, и для него воскресли вновь и божество, и вдохновение, и жизнь, и слезы, и любовь, и божество, и вдохновение, и жизнь, и слезы, и любовь.
So the chorus is to come up now. And for those of you who will now see much of the audience rise, let me be clear about what this project is that you're seeing in front of you as it comes up. This is the core of our Manhattan project. It's the Schiller Institute New York City Chorus. It is a group which is being built into a 1,000 to 1,500 person chorus. It is the core cultural initiative that we are composing in the city of New York as a pilot project for the United States. And the purpose of it is to return to a form of literacy in America which supersedes the present cacophony that we are hearing in all areas of discourse, political, social, cultural, marital, and otherwise. And so this is a project that was first discussed about 2 years ago by Lyndon LaRouche with some of our people. Everything that we sing is done at the proper tuning of C256. And what we're about to do is we're about to go through three sections of a program. We're going to do 3 African-American spirituals in a choral setting. We're doing 2 solo pieces, and then we're following that with Johann Sebastian Bach because he belongs there, as Paul Robeson once said. Today, as you know, is Good Friday, and I want to recall the thoughts of an important individual by the name of Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He's a theologian, German, who was here in New York City during the 1930s, and he was executed by the Nazis in 1945. He was one of the important and central people in the resistance to Hitler and one of the most important thinkers of the 20th century. He said, Jesus Christ lived in the midst of his enemies. At the end, all his disciples deserted him. On the cross, he was utterly alone, surrounded by evildoers and mockers. For this cause, he had come to bring peace to the enemies of God. So the Christian, too, belongs not in the seclusion of a cloistered life, but in the thick of foes. There is no way to peace along the road to safety. Peace must be dared. It is the great venture.
but they could not condemn him there. Tell me where to find him. Said, I wash my hands. Tell me where to find him. I find no fault in this just man. Tell me where to find him. Wasn't it a pity and a shame, and he never said a mumbling word? Wasn't it a pity and a shame, and he never said a mumbling word? No, not a word, not a word. Not a word. They pierced him in the side, in the side, in the side. They pierced him in the side, in the side, in the side. The blood came a twinkling down, and he never said a mumbling word. The blood came a twinkling down, and he never said a mumbling word. No, not a word, not a word, not a word. He bowed his head and died, and he never said a mumbling word. He bowed his head and died, and he never said a mumbling word. No, not a word, not a word, not a word.
say a few words about Bach's B minor Mass. I'm going to say very few words because, frankly, words really can't express adequately what the music expresses, because the purpose of music and poetry is to express the inexpressible. Bach, which the word Bach in German means brook or stream, and I think it's really summed up by what Ludwig van Beethoven once commented, where he said, nicht Bach, sondern Meer soll heißen, which means he shouldn't be called Bach, he should be called the ocean. I want you to, the B minor Mass, we're doing the first part of this. This is part of a long-term project where we intend to do the entire Mass. This is the first, we'll do the first 3 parts, well, 2.5 parts. We're doing the Kyrie, and then I will sing a very brief Christe eleison, since that's called for. Kyrie eleison means, Lord, have mercy on us. Christe eleison, Christ have mercy on us. And Kyrie eleison, again, this is in the Greek. The first chorus has 5 voices in it, and I would like people to follow the voices. I'd like the first sopranos to raise their hands so you know that's the first voice. The second voice is the second sopranos, very important. Third voice is the altos. Okay, and then we have the tenors here, and then we have our basses. And the second chorus has just 4 voices, where all the sopranos will be singing in the same voice. I'd like you to think of, as you listen to this, listen not to the sounds. Listen to the ideas behind the sounds and between the sounds and across the voices, because that is where the real human beauty of great music, great classical music, and Bach's ideas come through. Thank you.
Kyrie
Christe eleison.
things I'd like to say to people about what we've done, both here and in general. This is a project, as you see, which has depth. And besides of the intellectual depth it has a commitment and a purpose, which I think was very clearly heard in what you heard all of the singers do and all of the performers do. But I want to personally thank Frank Mathis for what he did. I wouldn't normally do that, but I've heard and wanted to hear that song sung that way. And I have not heard that song sung that way except when Roland Hayes sang it. I'm not even going to say what it is I'm talking about, because if you don't know, what can I say? That hasn't been heard in the United States, to the best of my knowledge, since Roland Hayes sang it. That is the product, not of Frank Mathis. And that is not the product even of this chorus. That is the product of the ensemble of our organization and what it stands for. And I'm going to ask the founder of our organization, who did not know I would ask her, to come up now, because in particular, she and I know how that actually happened. It was a conversation back in 1992 that I had with her, with Reverend James Bevel, and it happened in Europe, in Germany. It was after a series of conferences, and there was a confrontation. It wasn't meant to be a confrontation. I simply made it a confrontation. There was a discussion about the issue of the African-American spiritual and whether or not it was classical music, whether or not it was even great music. And my contention was, well, I don't know. I think these are slave songs. And she said, I don't hear that. Bevel had his own view and was very persuasive in his own way for why the songs of the civil rights movement were not slave songs. That was a little different. But from that point, there was something with which I was confronted, which I needed to prove to myself, not about black people and not about music, but about what Helga was telling me she was hearing. Was that what was there? And many things happened, and many people were met, and many people in this room were involved in us meeting and working with those people. There was Bill Warfield. There was Sylvia Olden Lee, whose 100th birthday we will be celebrating on June 29th. There were many, many, many people, but there was something else. There was a commonality of humanity that was being spoken about and which was proven. But it didn't have to be proven. That was the thing that I found and I discovered and I thought was most important. And so I'd like the founder of our organization, Helga, to come up and say something to us. I'm going to stand there. Yeah, let her stand there. This is good. That's better.
Well, I'm actually very happy to be here because, in the whole world there is right now a big concern about possible war. And, naturally, the war danger comes not from Russia and not from China, but it comes potentially from the United States. And when my husband, who is with us in spirit, initiated the Manhattan Project 2 years ago, he said we have to recreate the American culture and we have to recreate the American Revolution. And the question of music is extremely fundamentally connected to that because, when the civil rights movement really made a tremendous step forward with Martin Luther King, with the beautiful spirituals, and, we shouldn't forget Amelia Boynton Robinson, who wrote a whole play based on spirituals, telling the story of, how the human spirit is bigger than all external circumstances. So I think that, the question of the spiritual for the United States, having liberated at least a part of this population, I'm believing that we need the great classical music to make people free in an inner sense. And when we heard the beautiful Chinese music in the beginning, this is what has to come forward in every nation. And if we talk to each other on that level, and we heard the beautiful Russian song also from Frank, and then we heard naturally the absolutely overwhelming Bach Mass, I think it is important that we, elevate the people to the highest level. And it has to come from this movement, and it has to come from beauty, and it has to come from the ennobling of each of us, starting with ourselves. I think the message of Confucius, the message of Schiller, and all the other great thinkers of other nations should inspire us right now to, do a miracle. And, we should be very optimistic. I think the last couple of days, it became very heavy all of a sudden when the military strike against Syria occurred, when the bomb was placed in Afghanistan, a nuclear test was done in Nevada, the situation around North Korea is heating up tremendously. People all of a sudden, felt that the existence of civilization is not guaranteed. And, on the other side, there is tremendous hope. We had this beautiful conference where, the tremendous perspective which exists with the new Silk Road, the Belt and Road Initiative, which has captured the imagination of many people in Asia, in Latin America, and in Africa, where the perspective to overcome poverty for the very first time, to have a decent human life for every human being on this planet, is becoming a reality within grasp. So, while on the one side one feels sad because the situation is heavy, and, Good Friday is also for the Christians a day which has a lot of meaning, but then comes Easter, and I think the idea of winning for humanity, which is associated with Easter, is also giving us strength. So I want to thank you all. You did a beautiful job. I think I'm overwhelmed by this beauty. So since I don't want to become sentimental, I better go now and hope to see you soon.